We do not respect our teachers.
They have a psychology, should I keep it?
Long argued, you need 5% of GDP.
In that industry, we can become self-sufficient. Could you imagine China cuts the price again?
If the regulations do not follow, are not attractive to investors, then it will not happen.
I believe the Prime Minister is fully focused on it. If you think those guys are happy, you're not fully informed. First, I want to thank you for this auspicious gathering. And even though I have written 37 books, this is the first time in my life I'm doing this. You can see Shiva and I have known for a long time. I like to have this session very informal. No question is off limit. There will be times when I will not be able to answer. So you give me your card and we will respond to your question. We will do that. And the reason is my work heavily dependent on the questions and the issues you have. This gives me a fodder to think about and to search about what is on your mind. I get this really living laboratory to know what's happening on the outside.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. It's been an absolute delight to know the professor. He taught me for a week at a general manager course in 1996 in London. And after that, we stayed in touch, and I've been his good student, and I've had the good fortune of being mentored by him. He was fully responsible for me leaving Nokia. I remember I bumped into him in the Emirates lounge, and he said, "Shiv, you overstayed in Nokia. Now it's time to leave." Okay, and I remember I was shocked when he told me that over lunch or dinner. And then second time in ABG, he was also on the board of Hindalco there, and he said, "Look, I think you've done enough, Shiv. What more do you want to do? Okay, I think you should call it and then move on to other things." So thank you very much, sir, for both those things. I'll start. I sent him a bunch of questions, 12 questions. I sent him day before yesterday. He said, "Shiv, I'm not reading them. Keep it spontaneous. Ask me anything. I'm sure you'll be sensible. Ask me anything. And I'll answer it straight from the heart. I don't want to prepare." Okay? So that's what it is. So first question to you, sir. You talk of China building 90% of the global capacity in many industries. That sounds simple and brilliant. What is needed for any leader to think like this? To build 90% capacity, forget a country, forget a region, but for the world. What enables us thinking, and what can Indian leaders learn from it?
The first part, and this is the most important part, is to know what is China's 90% model is. Most people don't know that. In the United States, CEOs still don't know that. So I've been there several decades. I've been in the board of Chinese companies, coaching 50 companies. And the model I really like you to understand, you don't have to accept it. And we have plenty of time to do that. It's nothing fancy. It began by the president of China demanding, forcing Chinese companies to create capacity in China equal to the 90% of the world demand. Let's repeat that. It's not 90% of the demand in China. It's the 90% of the demand of the whole world. Today, they produce the real ingredient for solar for almost 100% of the demand of the world. They picked 10 industries. They killed most of them in America, didn't get it really coming up in India, Europe. They picked the next 10 that's going on, and now they have announced the next 10. That means selecting industries, creating capacity, build it, and then you sell that product at the incremental cost. Hyperscale, lower average cost, sell at the incremental cost, then 25% currency devaluation. Then, which we don't count, is giving free land, free capital, and say, Mr. Company China A, you have a single goal to get the world's largest market share. Is the model clear? India is a victim of it. Every single country. The second part I want you to know, its goodness is that the Modi government has now recognized. And that is this part on those industries, decisions are made by President Xi. He has a small groups that do it. And he can make a decision, as he has in October last year, to stop supplying anything that is critical to the industry in India, and can stop the whole industry within 1 week time. Everybody understand that. 95% of this book is facts. 5% are conclusions and opinions. These facts can be verified and can be observed. This is the phenomena. So these companies selling to India, the world, they actually is still incurring losses. Everybody clear? Cash losses. And they said, that's fine. So how does it happen? Because they don't use the word ROI, ROCE, you don't have to do any such thing. So first thing is that my solar company in India is not competing with the solar company in China. It is competing with President Xi. It's competing against a nation. All companies that are in those 30 industries outside China are competing with a nation called China, that the decisions are being made in the office of the president. So I have now Indian CEOs who are going there, and they talk to the companies, and companies say, yes, sir, we are willing to do, but we have to get the permission from the president's office. These are facts. And I'm reporting to you of some of the biggest industrialists in India. Am I describing Indian progress? For a good measure depends on how India and China go forward. Good news, secretaries in Delhi have now been calling business people. They take 3 of the industry. They say, tell us, this is a critical industry. Tell us what you need to be able to produce your own here. Because the price of a Chinese is $1, cost of India is $3. So they are now offering to fill the gap. This is going on day and night right now. Now, that is a temporary band-aid. That's where we are. Now, that does not discourage you. We're going to navigate through this tough time, but our focus is to build our own strength. So I am working with the companies here. I had one this morning. We have Chinese people training our Indians right now. We began that 2 years ago. We are getting technology from Japan, from South Korea, from Israel. All the blueprint is there. And we believe in a period of 3 years, in that industry, we can become self-sufficient. We can do that. These are tough times. Oil price is up. Hormuz situation. All those things are there. But we are a resilient people. We're going to win to do that. We have diaspora who will help us. There are big companies in the world. But this is the tough time. As Uday Kotak said in CII, that there are tough times coming in, we're going to go through. We have a long-term goal to be, by 2047, to be in the first world, and we will.
The China model is predicated on high quality, high tech, high innovation, and a good price. I'm not saying low price. Is that model difficult to beat? And how does one beat that model?
The key point of this question, there are two. First, they stop the supply. There's no answer to this. And that's the most difficult part. Second part is the price is artificial. If it is, what happened to the rupee? Don't worry, we know how to work this one through. We have expertise to do that. The good news is that the secretaries in Delhi actually working at it, which I like very much. And our people are very bright people. I believe the Prime Minister is fully focused on it. I don't know for a fact, but that's my belief.
When we look at companies, China has 130 companies in the top 500 Fortune companies by revenue. However, it has very few brands in the top 100 valuable brands. Is soft power a challenge China has, and how does it address the same?
Yeah, I like to repeat this question. We are not competing with China. We're competing with President Xi. When you meet the Chinese people themselves or go to their homes, you should see the unhappiness. Not very many people are allowed to go to their homes and find out what happens. I served on the board of a Chinese company for 10 years. I coached the CEO of Baidu. That's very different. So if you think those guys are happy, you're not fully informed. Everybody gets it. I'm talking CEOs. I'm talking the owners. I do 3 times a year, 36 founders to come and see me in Tokyo or Singapore for 2 days. So you sit down with them and say, what's happening? What's happening? Because they don't make money, cash. There are exceptions in the service area. The President Xi believes in austerity. Austerity is high. But the people have tasted good times as early as 2013, 14.
You speak of currency manipulation in the book as central to the China strategy. Now, this is not new. Lee Iacocca made the same claim in the 1980s against Japan and again spoke of the same in a famous 1992 Detroit speech. What does a country do when a big economy manipulates currency?
Yeah. First thing I want you to know about Japan, there was no dictator. There was no fear. You know how every 6 months they change the generals. They take big government officials in finance. Nobody knows where they are. Very different from Japan. The second part is that we know of no way except political or military threat to get a country to change currency. The whole system is that way. There are ways, but they are drastic ways. They are not some easy you can negotiate, you could do that. Donald Trump comes in, and the currency for Japan went in 2013 from 79 yen to the dollar to 160. There is no way General Motors or Ford can compete. So he brought it down to 140, he's negotiating. If they continue at 140, you count on it that the General Motors and Ford will have a hell of a time living. So this is now being negotiated on a bilateral basis, what that is going to be. I am on record to tell you I don't like it. Our currency is not going to come back to 80. Don't plan on it. You will be seeing an article coming out in the next few days about the currency rupee in one of the newspapers, very long article. Because the psychology matters. The people who have money already invested from outside, they have a psychology. Should I keep it? Will it decline further? Will it decline further? So the money leaves. Somebody wants to put money here and say, what is the signal that the currency will stop declining? That's a psychological issue. Some fearful, some take the risk, some hedge. Those who have had enormous amount of outside borrowings and hard currencies, they have a very difficult time from here on, and their business model will have to be changed. I've served on one of those companies for some time, and the business model has to change in a major way.
You write in the book that personal diplomacy does not work with autocrats. Could you please elaborate on that? Personal diplomacy does not work with autocrats.
What is an autocrat? Use of power. Unless you have a counter power, it's all good celebrations. We don't have any big power against the Chinese. But we have something he wants it badly, market of India. He says, give me my market, I'll do certain things. If you don't do, I'll coerce you. It's done for Brazil, it's done for Australia, it's done for us. So you play with me, or you get a penalty. But he wants the India market. And we give India market, and we don't export, the currency situation, because we don't have much export. Raw materials, fruit, things of that kind.
In one of your answers to this China 90% model, you advocate a coordinated bloc of 60 trillion comprising USA, UK, EU, Japan, Israel, and South Korea. First question, how will this work? Any reason why you didn't include India in that list?
Oh, yes. The first part I want you to know, I may have missed it, but I've tried every which way. No country alone can stop the march of China for economic market share gain. Scale is not enough. So they have to coordinate sooner or later. They may not coordinate. They may have to. We have a coordination in defense with a number of countries, and we're going to increase that. It's going to happen. But the idea here is, without China, the old way of democratic countries, the total economy now 60 trillion, give and take. We can do a very good job with 60 trillion. I don't need 100 trillion to do that. If you coordinate the way they have coordinated between the United States and Israel, it's going to happen piecemeal, I have no doubt. It will take time to do that. But meanwhile, we're losing time to the Chinese gaining of market share.
You say China is a vertically integrated model. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this model?
Yeah. Please note the mind of President Xi. I control everything. I will not depend on anybody except within China. Therefore, they're vertically integrated, including, if they can, own the raw materials wherever they are. And if they don't play with him, he will punish, which has happened.
You say that data, drones, and software will determine the course of future wars, and we're seeing that. What will be the role of physical armies? We have a million people, America has a million people, etc. What do governments need to do with these armies in the future?
The first part is that, including China, no nation really wants a physical war, including China. He's on record. Unless China is attacked, he will not attack. They have an army, they have all that, but he will not do that. Why? The notion is China wants every country to be governed on the philosophy of Lenin. By the way, this is in writing in Mandarin. We have records of that. So if you have a war and you lose your people, you're not accomplishing your mission. And he says it many times, that if you attack, I have no choice. If you don't attack, I'm not attacking you. But he's attacking you economically. He has economic space instead of military space. It's very clear, it's very verifiable. I will win on the economic basis.
Now, a question which many people have also asked me. China is accused of surveillance and poor human rights. What's your view on it?
Yes, we know the facts. There are 55,000 people surveillance 24/7, all spread over. They have equipment they're selling to the third world countries. That's not a news, it's real, that we know. And they are promulgating, there are elections, some such thing in the countries. Vulnerable countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan. They own Pakistan today. They are harassing Philippines. I'm predicting the next issue will be Philippines. Now, the issue is the leaders identify the real issues. Don't bury the head in the sand. We have great people here, great brains here. We do have resources here. We suffer, we go forward. The good news is, from the knowledge I have, I've not met Mr. Modi, but what's happening in Delhi, from the knowledge I have, they are fully aware of it.
Next question is something I think a number of people are talking about and writing about. Why have global institutions like the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, the United Nations have failed? Is this an overdependence on America and funding?
I want you to know this. Those are some hard facts. They were totally useless before China became great. Nothing. You get large number of people on the boards, they have to vote and don't understand it. And they are going to be not very useful except to sit down and talk. So that was very clear, long time. All those Doha arrangements, all this, all that, very, very, very ineffective. And that's it was all designed where people can sit and talk, but they were not doing any really thing that you will count for it. This is not. Please note, when they ask me in the private sessions, I tell them this. I ask a question, tell me, how many human beings today are running the world? Please note the word, running the world. It's two. Make no mistake. Got questions, ask me, I'll give you evidence. You may have an opinion of one or the other, that's a separate issue.
Okay. My last question before I turn it over to the audience.
You're allowed
Prof.
two more.
No, I'll turn it over to the audience. Is the issue a fundamental clash of ideology between China and the Western democratic world?
Yeah. Please note, this is factual. No more the word ideology. It all began around 1956. All laid out, it's in Mandarin. The goal is the world must run on the Lenin principles. Now, I need to tell you this. This is a movement. Communism is a movement, and they want to conquer the world. Japanese emperor tried in 1926. That's how the whole thing began. Japanese occupied China. We were occupied by the Mughals for 350 years, more than 150 years by the British. So it is a movement of a different political philosophy. First, 1.4 billion or so are now under that regime. This one, they're trying for a long march through the controlling of the economic apparatus of the countries. And so it is the ideology versus democracy. Read the statements of President Xi repeatedly. Democracy is declining. It is deteriorating. We are demonstrating we are the most efficient. We produce all this. How fast we have produced all this. But he doesn't say the standard of living of the people in China. You know what I'm talking.
You know India very well, both of you. What have you noticed? I mean, we have our rather constricted view. What have you noticed about that? Why is it that we don't do as much in this field of PhDs and R&D?
First is the mindset. If we don't get the positive balance of payment, we're not going to do anything. So what are the priorities? In the priorities, we need to figure out to bring FDI and so on. Number one need of our country to do this is quality. If you don't get the quality, we're going to go nowhere. So I want every company to go for quality first. Second, which parts of research and development? It's a vast area. So I say to let us say Dixon's, I want the high quality, competitive quality product development, that kind of thing. So we need to put priorities, because without priorities, we're going to go nowhere. I put quality as number one priority for us, but I could be wrong. Education, no question about it. We have these education institutions we need to put, but I want to select. For example, I want a big thing on pharmaceuticals for the, you know what I mean, institutions. Those kinds of things. When it came to me 10 years ago to put semiconductors, a powerhouse called me to look at that, and I've been working with Intel for 30 years. So we're saying, yes, we need to put very quickly an institution on the whole area to go for, but we have to go selective, not spread the peanut butter across the economy. But that's the viewpoint.
In China, there's so much government capital expenditure that comes in. So my question is, do you think the type of capital is important, matching with what the ambitions are? And two, if it isn't, how do we rationalize that structural mismatch between what we want the output to be and what the capital is coming in?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, the professor addresses that exact point in his book, where he says a number of multinational organizations went into China, invested in capital, but they had to invest in other areas in China too. And over a period of time, when China became self-sufficient in that technology or in that area, had mastery of that, they said, look, now the tightening of various things happened, and then they worked out. In India, specifically, linking back to both questions, the fact of the matter is we get, at best, $70 billion of FDI. Net FDI is 1 or 0. Net FDI is 1 or 0. For an economy of our size, I've long argued, you need 5% of GDP. So if our GDP is 4 trillion, we need 200. And we really need to invite the best technology to come into the country, number one. Now, technology alone is not good enough. Your regulations also must follow, especially in the energy sector. If the regulations do not follow, are not attractive to investors, then it will not happen.
Yeah, let me just take you through about the complexity. We should open the regulations. But why they don't want to come, even we give them a special preference. Because if they invest here and they believe the currency will devalue, should they come? So it's very complex that way. We got to pull that thing together, not just hip shoot. And that's what I'm looking at. I said, how do I go and sell to somebody to buy technology there? In which way say, I can take the risk? But there are a number of factors, non-regulatory, that prevent them to take the risk. That's the way it is.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Puneet Kumar. I've had experience of multinationals over almost 2 decades now, and now I have my own advocacy. You talked about China business governed by the state. Mostly state intervention, state driving, it's state philosophy. I think from 2008, the economic downfall, and subsequently Corona and COVID, etc., there has always been government the biggest elephant in the room through the stimulus packages. Unfortunately, and talking about India versus China now, we do not have the trust value, despite so much of government intervention in the business, between the business and the government per se. You talked about regulation, but regulations are in isolation we are trying to govern. So do you have any thought about, states are there to govern. State has been governing and China has been governing to the state. Where exactly is the gap? Despite states supporting, in India also it has been supported through all the crises. So what is?
Yeah, the question is the trust between government and the business here. Great question. But let me just mention one thing, and just bear with me, please. China is not run by the state. It's run by one man. Everybody should really get that right. Let me repeat that. China is not run by the state. It's run by one man. He is the person who runs China. You can think varieties of adjectives without me saying it on the camera. And I also want you to know, not everybody there likes it, and you can understand what I mean. Now, the trust part here is a big one, and I have some evidence that it is really improving. Why do I say that? Because I know the fact that in these industries that I mentioned to you, the secretaries are soliciting the business people. That I know. So to that extent, I find it very refreshing. See, the last parts of Congress in power, Chidambaram took me to dinner. Then I learned what was going in. Private, no company car, no government car. It took me through. Then I understood how paralyzed we were. Today is much better. Then I am, and you correct me, very encouraged. I had Chandrababu Naidu. I think he's a fireball. I think so. I see Yogi doing it. So we have a number of these state chief ministers. I was allowed to meet the chief minister of Goa. I was very impressed. Chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, chief minister of Telangana. They're all focused what needs to be done. Now you can argue he's better, he's not so better, but the people I have met, they are on the ball trying to do this. And that will come going forward. I see positive side of it compared to 10, 12 years ago.
What we see China right now, when we look back in the primary education last 30 years and what structural changes they have done step by step. I'm sure what we see China now is an ROI what they did in primary education. So when we see India and when we set the target as government or as businesses of 2040 or 2050, what structural changes are education? And I'm not talking about higher education. I'm talking about primary education we should do so that what we see in 2040 and what we set target in 2050, we are close to that.
That's a great question. The fact is, many schools, I don't want to throw the stats, many schools have just one teacher teaching multiple subjects. So till we make
the profession of teaching something aspirational, something worthy, and something remunerative, I don't think things will change. The heart of it is we do not respect our teachers. It's as simple as that. No, we need to change that.
Professor Charan, I asked this question from a perspective of someone who spends a lot of time with regional CEOs, global CEOs investing in India. Many are increasing their commitment to India because they don't want to repeat the mistake of underestimating China. Yet, when they look at India, they're not just evaluating the market size, they're trying to assess whether the institutions, the governance mechanisms, and execution capability required for sustained transformation are actually strengthening. So, my question is, what are the institutional signals you look for that tell you that a country is genuinely building long-term competitive advantage? And do you see those signals emerging in India today?
We should do the following. We should focus what we need to do as India. And in doing that, say, how do we relate to China? How do we relate to Europe? Stop worrying about China. And we're going to figure this out. I believe Mr. Modi is, because I'm not privy to, I don't think anybody else is privy to, the conversations between President Xi and Mr. Modi in October. Something happened there. We have to keep our eye on our mission and say we're going to work here, not work here, relate here, not relate there. But to stop the cocktail talk about China. First, you don't really know until you live there. Large part is the press and propaganda. Second, it doesn't do any good. So institutional part is your basic question. Now, so the first part is the institution, which I think, which you could disagree. First part, how do we move the bureaucracy of secretaries to do something? I think we are moving. Everybody clear? This is the most important institution. Because they are doing it, and they are being evaluated. Correct? And they are being punished to take it out. Take somebody out, change somebody. And as people have been telling me in the last 48 hours, there will be redesign of the cabinet soon. At least that's what they tell me. I have no clue. So that's the most important. The second most important, that's the viewpoint, is the Reserve Bank. You know what I mean? And the linkage with the finance ministry, I believe it's very good. I compared in the world. We have a hell of a time with Raghuram Rajan and with Chidambaram. Anybody recalls that? Hell of a time. Mr. Modi has been totally consistent to every year reduce the fiscal deficit as a portion of GDP. I don't know any other person who does it in the world. People don't know that, but it's very disciplined doing that. So we have some of these institutions. Now, if you think of some other institutions, we can talk about those, but they drive the country. I believe that I have a lot of faith in Chandrababu Naidu. He did something. I believe that. That's me. You can disagree with that. But we're getting more people getting used to it now, going forward doing that. That's where I come out.
My name is Colonel Tarun Vora. So I'm an ex-army officer, almost 21 years in the Indian Army and almost 6 years in the corporate. You mentioned about everything being controlled from the president's office in China. That was one. When I was a young major, I was part of UN forces in UNIFIL, that is in Lebanon. And we had a Chinese battalion, right? Over there, in the Chinese battalion, there were no televisions in their barracks, nothing at all. But in the evening at 7 p.m., there was a radio broadcast giving them the state news. And these news were the one which they wanted the troops to hear it out. At the same time, in our own Indian forces, we had, we had televisions, different number of channels. We are aware, how the news channels run and everything, right? Now, these are two very extreme shifts. One is you are controlling the mindset of the people. What do you want them to think? Secondly, what you mentioned, that everything is being controlled from the president's office in China. What do you think, the question comes, what do you think is the change of mindset in us, what is required, and how to achieve it, keeping our strengths in, keeping our strengths again, with us. You mentioned, our government is doing something, our bureaucrats are doing something. Of course, those things are happening. But what about, the common people? We are too diversified. We had our own mindsets. So how do you think we should do that? And what all things we should do that?
I plead guilty. I wouldn't have a clue. And that's not the most important priority. We got to work on priorities. We should do something. I don't have an answer. No, I have no answer for that. Let's face it, I am limited.
Just taking a couple of steps behind, we're talking about China needs the access to the outside world market. But from a perspective of an American organization who wants to grow in China, or maybe an Indian organization who wants access to the China market, do you think, or what will you suggest, looking at an effort versus impact and the long-term plan, do you still feel it's viable for us to focus on China's market, or you feel it's a wild goose chase?
It's a fantastic question. I want to first posit, and I've said it, I'm going to repeat it. We will not decouple with China. Neither they want it, nor we want it. So now the question, how do we go from here? Now, I would be happy to go to China, company, investment, if I can see the following three things. One, am I going to build some capability? Clear? You know what I mean? Capability. I'll go there. Because I have a company I work with, $20 billion. We have that there. We also get the intelligence out of there. It's very important. But there is a small base. It's not large company. Second, I still can learn a lot of competitive techniques. I think I can. What they are will be good. But if I begin to get a larger market share, I am a candidate to be thrown out unless they want my technology. So I'm now able to predict to private large companies in America when their time is going to come and they will get a call. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. Many of you may know it. On the board I am, CCP guy sits on my left. They tell you what particular slots have to be filled by CCP. If you are a big company and be in China, count on it, you're going to have a CCP guy telling you. You want it? Good luck to you. But learning about capability, I'm all for it. Do that. The other thing, I should not scare you, but it's a fact. Any reasonably high CCP guy get crossed with you, watch out. We have examples of that.
Is it possible for India as a country to displace ASML from its position as the sole provider of photolithographic technology?
Yes. We have to select industries first. Industries they got out. They have. We can occupy that. We have to select. Then we have to say, do they have priorities? Okay, we can. But I want to see the priorities first. And I have no doubt in my mind, but I have no evidence. I think when I look at the actions of the Prime Minister, he has priorities in his mind. I see that very clearly. That's where I would come out, what that part is.
Take one last question.
Yeah, I think a very, very good evening for this. I think I just want to have one question, that the role of science and technology is going to be very big in today and tomorrow's world. And where do you think India could focus more in that aspect, in the whole quest to become something which can become good and also reach where China can be?
Absolutely. And the key point I'm saying is go for the time being with the applied science technology and pick 10 industries or 5 industries or 15 industries. Build that. We can still get the basic sciences, including from China if they have it. We can do that. But we can't afford the peanut spread strategy.
Good. I think with that we'll close. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, sir. To sum it up,
Why we
We have
just
been doing-
warming up now? Go.
yes. So before I, conclude the session, I have a couple of questions, if you allow. Yeah. 2 things, sir. One, quickly, I want to know the reason and the secret of your energy. For the last 3 days, Shiv sir has been honestly after my life checking what's happening. And today, this is for the first time in my life, having organized 250 sessions, I have 2 people standing and moderating the entire session. I think we can give them a standing round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the other part of question, because we are here also to celebrate a book, sir. Collectively between the 2 of you, you've written 40 books. I see a macro level thinking here, which I think the entire economy and things in its place because we have qualified people like you taking care of that. From my primitive business aspect, what is the future of reading? You are writing books on, how do I get everybody's attention to,
A lot of writing for Harvard Business Review. And there is a change there. So I'd called the person and I went for dinner. I arrived and these 2 people were already there. I sat down before they could say anything except greetings. And I asked them, why should you be in business? He said, that's the question we were going to ask. Now, it's a universal fact. It's a scientific fact. If you insert knowledge here, it does something to the brain. Everybody agrees with that? So what is that knowledge? Wisdom, instincts, insights. It has to go here. So what are the ways individuals need to insert that knowledge, whatever. To do that, in the initial days, it was storytelling. Most of my learning of wisdom was storytelling. 1948, I'm sitting on the floor. If you ever heard of the word takhti, I used to write on takhti. We sat on the floor. Teacher sat in a chair, 7 to 11, 6 days a week. And we were very happy. Now, then we have to read, which is a cold print. Many of us didn't like to do that. Remember, I used to learn under diya. You understand diya? That's what we had 4 to the room doing with under the diya. Our eyes are still intact to do that. Now, so here the absorption is through the reading. And then we begin to get the teacher teaching through the audio. And we do the audio part. Now we have the absorption of knowledge through 3 dimensions. Clear? So now I come to your point. Each individual has to have his or her way to select sources of knowledge and not only put it in, but let it process to find integration and let it process to find pattern. A lot of questions I used to solve were in sleep. We still do that. Many of you do that today. So I have suggested, and I'm going to do this, no book of mine is going to be more than 70 pages. And with it, I want to put something that's audiovisual. People, a 70-page book will read it. And it has to be to the point, no baloney in it. And then you also have it available on the visual basis. So we teach. The reason I say I am putting in the companies in India a new way of training. I don't want anybody to go to a month course unless there are special cases. I want them to have a daily 1-hour training. It will stick. It will be designed that way. And they will be happy because you can use it. So there you could assign a portion of a book, a chapter, read it, talk tomorrow, do this, do this, do this. But for all of us, we need to find learning in doses, and that's the part you can do that going forward. And that's where I'm really heading, to have 70 page, 80 page, take all the garbage out and say, this is what we need to do the books.